is Karen Gilbert from Simply Said with Karen, and thank you for joining me today. I have a cute little card. It's a fancy fold card, and I'll show you the original one that I did. It's called a double-zfold card, and when you open it, there's a little penguin that pops out. These are known as slider cards, and they're really quite easy to make. You just have to make a couple and you've got it down pat. But today I am going, just to let you know that I made this with the Penguin Place stamp set and punch. Today I am going to be using the Peaceful Deer, and the punch that goes with it is this. You can find this in the July to December mini catalog, 2021 mini catalog, and we're going to have fun with this. So I hope you decide to create this card, as it is really cute. So I'm going to start. I have cut my papers ahead of time so as not to take up a great deal of time. Okay, I started with a piece of 8.5 by 11, and I cut it 4 1/4 by 8.5, so that we have this large panel here and then the folded ones here. So this one is, and we scored it along the top, scored it at 1 1/2 here and 3 here. So that gives you your 5.5 by 4 1/4 panel. And then these two panels are 4 1/4 by 1 1/2. Then you cut a 2-inch panel, which will go across here, and it's cut at 2 inches, again by 10.5. No, by 8.5. And you score it along here. It's scored at 1 1/2 and 3, and then this panel is 5.5 inches long. So this is what happens, and you're going to put the short panel towards the left and the longer panel towards the right when you get ready to put it together. I also cut some designer series paper to use, and it's from the same catalog, and it's called the Painted Christmas Designer Series paper, and the colors in here are Coral Calypso, Cherry Cobbler, Crumb Cake, Early Espresso, Evening Evergreen, Garden Green, Pear Pizzazz, Real Red, and Soft Seafoam, as well as Soft Succulent. So these panels, the designer series paper, this long one, which will be going on this piece here, and it's a little long, so I'll have to recut it out a bit. This longer piece is 1 3/4 by 5 1/4, so it fits on there quite nicely. Then we have these two little pieces here that are 1 3/4 by 1 1/2 and 1 3/4 by 1 1/2. I cut a piece of white, Whisper White. No, sorry, I keep wanting to call that, but we don't have Whisper White anymore. It's Basic White. And this piece is 5¼ by 4. So it fits right there nicely. And these are the panels, Designer Series panels for this one. And they are 1¼ by 4. And I'm going to use the other side of this, and it is 1¼ by 4. So before we start, I'm going to do our background to get it ready. And I'm going to use some of the trees here, and I'm going to stamp them in Evergreen. That's our new in color for this year. Now remember that once you get the border across the bottom, that anything behind there is going to be hidden, so you might want to think about just putting them up higher. I'm going to stamp this in full strength over on the side here. And then stamp again without re-inking. This gives the illusion of the tree behind it. For this one, I'm going to do the same. Now I'll put some on the other side here. A couple. And again, the same thing. And finish off with a couple of the smaller trees. Okay, so, and I'm going to stamp them in Early Espresso and on Crumb Cake. Now I'm going to use the punch. This punch has the deer as well as some antlers if you'd like to use that. So he's looking pretty good. And I'm going to do a couple of the antlers. And I'll do them in Early Espresso. And another one here. Now if you maneuver your punches a bit, then you won't waste a whole ton of cardstock. So here's my deer, and we'll just attach his horns like that with a dab of glue. Okay, but first of all, before I do that, I'm just going to do some shading in Crumb Cake with my blends, just to give them a little bit of definition. Oops. Okay. So, oh, I still have them. I didn't manage to lose them like I usually do. So we're going to put, and you notice I made a splotch here, but we'll fix that later. So we're going to put this little guy up here with his horns because he's like he's jumping, and he's going to be our surprise. And this little guy is going to go there. And again, I'm going to stamp him on Crumb Cake using the early Espresso ink, because I'll put him on the panel at the bottom. Or maybe it's a her, I don't know. And unfortunately, we have to cut this one out by hand. And I'm going to do the same with the baby that's sitting by his mama. And we have to cut him out too. There's some spots put on his backside. Stamp that off. There. A little baby fawn. Okay, so now it's time to cut. So I'll just trim this away. Now we're going to cut out our deer. So this is the little fawn. And some people really enjoy fussy cutting. Sometimes I just find it annoying, but there isn't punch or dies for every image that we have. So if you want them to kind of stand out, then you have to cut. Okay, the baby's all done. Now this is probably his mother, so we'll cut that one out. Okay, now I'm just going to take and color them, just like I did with the one we punched, using the blends. And this is the light Crumb Cake. Just to give it some definition. And again, I will use the color lifter to move the color a bit. The color lifter to move the color a bit. And the same as for If you don't have blends, the other thing you can do is just use a sponge or a dauber and highlight the edges. Okay. Almost looks like I cut off his foot, but I don't think I did. Okay, so we have our deers done now. And I hope I can still find my antlers. Yep, they're there and there. So this is the one we're going to put as the pop-up behind. We're going to put these on the panel at the bottom. And I think I want to do a few more trees in the background. There, I think we have enough now. We can start putting it together. Okay, so I'm just going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue, and I'm going to put the back panel on. Just leaving a little border. And we'll put on the designer series paper. Okay, so I'm going to put this one here. And then I'm going to change it up and put this one here on the other side, because it's so hard to tell which side you want to use sometimes. So you're not going to see a whole lot of this one, so it's okay. How do you decide which side to use your designer series? There, so that's what it's going to look like when it's closed, and then when you open it, it's going to just be that. So now I'm going to put the designer series paper on the panel that goes in the bottom. Okay, so it's time to put the designer series paper on the bottom panel. So this one will go here. These two little ones will go here. One here and one here. So I'll just use my multi-purpose liquid glue to put those on. One thing I did was I cut out some greenery using the dye from the Christmas Pinecone dies, and just used a portion of it, and that's in the Christmas to Remember bundle. So that's where the little deer and the mama deer are going to sit. So now it's time to make that mechanism that gives the magic to this card. It's just a little crooked here. So to make the little mechanism that drives the stamp or the cutout or whatever you're going to use up and down. Okay, to make the mechanism we need a piece of cardstock, and I've used the Crumb Cake, and it is 1¼ inches wide by 1½ inch long, and we also need a piece of window sheet. So, and it's 1/4 inch by 2 inches. So what you need to do is you take this cardstock and you fold the corner down to the left side. And just use your bone folder so you can really get it down. Use the glue dots on this side of it, because this is the side that's going to stick to the panel, the bottom panel. So I put 3 on here. Seems to work fine. And then we take it, now this is going to be on this panel here, this one right here. So if we turn it over, we want it so that the point is on the right side. There. Now this is the little guy that's going to pop up. And now that you have the glue dot on the upper side, so then we need to play with it so we can just, because we want it hidden. So then it'll pop up behind. So you'll have to fiddle with it so that you can see where the best angle to put the glue dot, and then you get that pop up. So I just need to put his antlers on. So we'll just put a dab of his antlers are going to show a little bit, but that's okay. So then now we need to put some greenery on the front of there. And anyways, I'm going to put a little bit of embossing powder on here to make it look like snow. So I'm just going to take my VersaMark and just gently dab in different places. And then I'm going to heat set it, and because it's so tiny, I've got these tweezers I will use, and my heat gun. Okay. So that's done. Now, do you know about this trick to get the glue on images or die cuts that are delicate and fiddly like these are? So I use a silicone sheet, and I put a bit of dab of glue in the corner here. You just need a piece of sponge and turn it over and just tap it in several different places. I love these silicone mats. I use them quite a bit actually. Move that out of the way. So I may have to trim this a little bit, just along the bottom here. Because otherwise you may not be able to get it into your envelope. And I'll just take this piece off too. There. Okay, so we're getting there. Now we're going to take the baby and the mama, and we'll use glue dot, or not glue dots, but dimensionals. And if you have the mini dimensionals, they'll work great. There, and put it there, and the baby. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is put a sentiment on, and I just want to measure to see where we need to put that. And I think I'll put it right in there. And I'm going to use "Wishing you a wonderful year and friendships dear." And I'm going to stamp this in Early Espresso. And because I'm going to be stamping right on the inside of the card, I'll cross my fingers that I don't get any halos. I'm going to stamp it in Early Espresso. And we'll just wipe that off a bit. There. Okay, now we just have to attach this to the bottom. And I'm going to use double-sided tape for that. And on this end, I'm going to put 2 pieces so that it really gets held. I think I'll close this up before I put my hand in it and anything else that's round. Okay, so you want to line this up on this side. Line it up at the bottom and give it a good press. And then line this one up here and give it a good press. And we're just about finished. We just need to do a couple of more things. And you want something on the back. Okay, this piece of Whisper White is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And we're going to stamp a sentiment on here. 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And we're going to stamp a sentiment on here too. And I think sending love and peace this season is a nice one. And again, I'm going to stamp it in the early espresso. This just makes it so that there's some place for you to write your greeting. And then just stick it down with multi-purpose glue or whatever you use for adhesive. I will have the measurements for the cardstock and the papers below the video, and they will also be available on my blog, and I will leave the different addresses, my blog information on down below as well. And please take a moment to like my video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, when you visit my blog, please sign up for my mailing list. So thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy making this card, and we'll catch up to you next time. Bye now.